systems go. Clear for liftoff.
What is going on? Tweezy, Sean, Alex Hahn, William, Nadesify, Colin, Evan, Big P, Colin again, Kevin, Richie Smalls, and my man, Hebrewcheetah. 10-gamer Rio Tuesday. Usually these Tuesday games or these slates are pretty short. Not today. Nice 10-gamer. Injury news. It's the normal NBA we're used to. Studs questionable. Studs being ruled out. Big boy slate. A lot of money up top. How's it going on this Tuesday, Rio?
Yeah, it's going good. Nice we get a big slate today on a Tuesday. We've been getting a lot of the 14, 12 gamers on Wednesdays and Fridays and 2, 3 gamers on Tuesdays and Thursdays. So it's nice to get a more balanced set of games today.
You betcha. 10 games, Steph getting ruled out, LeBron questionable, Embiid questionable, some Spurs news, injury news all over. Trey out. Going to be a fun slate. Before, as Richie Smalls always says, we always appreciate that like button. You guys know the drill by now. If you're watching for the first time, we appreciate you. Hit that subscribe button as well. Helps us out a ton. A lot of familiar faces, though. Phil in here, Justin, Gator Nation, Kevin in here, Rob in here, Jetty. Hope everybody out there having a great day. Wasn't a good NFL showdown day, that's for sure. Usually isn't when 200-plus weight chop. However, I saw some members in the winner's circle. If you were one of those people out there, you can never complain about a couple $1,000s. What is going on? Trevor Bryan. Ham says LBJ's playing. I know some people in Discord were saying that. I haven't seen any confirmation yet. I know he was present at shoot around. Any initial thoughts on this slate, Rio, before we go game by game? Obviously 10, a good amount, but what are your thoughts on this slate?
A ton of injury news that we'll definitely touch on. Should be a lot of value opening up through the slate. Some big news for sure with Embiid, LeBron. Got some Spurs stuff. So we should get a ton of value throughout the slate.
Any talks or any thoughts on this NBA in-season tournament? So that is what's going on today. The first game, or what was it, 2 weeks ago, something like that. The courts are really dope. Those games were good. It felt the atmosphere was up there a little bit. Stars were going back and forth. I know D-Mitch had himself a game. Any thoughts on the atmosphere? Any difference? I mean, I'm not really changing the way I'm playing DFS, but any thoughts in general NBA-wise, or if you do, pertaining to anything in DFS?
No, not really. I'm kind of in I don't know if you saw the Damian Lillard interview after their game, but he was just kind of like, oh, yeah, something definitely feels different. We don't know what it is, but it feels different. There's definitely different atmosphere. So I don't know if the NBA is, if they're getting the product that they intended for it to be. I mean, the courts are cool. They're funky. So I just don't think that it's not really like a playoff type atmosphere like they were hoping for. But yeah, definitely cool to see some creative court designs out there.
Yeah, I like seeing it. It's a little different atmosphere from every other game, I guess. But the courts, some of them are cool. Some of them, I'm like, that is way too much color. That is way too much for me to look at. Some better than the others, though. The coach in Milwaukee's awful, Gator Nation. Council's gone. What's going on? The Packers stink. What's going on in Wisco Sports, Gator Nation? Conscientious, what is up? Steven, Jasmine in here. What's going on? So we'll go game by game like always. First, if you're not a member at SHIPIT Nation, I don't know what you're doing. So much success. Hoop giving away money. Tambo, King of the Beach, coming up. $30,000 maximum. If he takes first place, he's giving away $30,000 to 6 people. So much winning, so many giveaways going on, so many sports. MMA still going on this week, PGA this week, NFL, NBA, NHL going on to a nice slate as well. Might join the NHL streets. Check out Nate's content there. Been doing a great job. Head over to SHIPIT Nation. Get in. $69 a month for the monthly. 6-month package comes out to $59 a month. Annual package comes out to $49 a month. Projections, ownership, and the biggest thing, the Discord. If you do join, make sure to get into that. Love seeing all the success people have had. NBA Discord printing other than Slap. Slap's going to turn it around. Slappy, your day's coming, man. Keep grinding. All right, game by game, Rio. 10 games on the slates. Again, injury news, a big part. We'll touch on injury news game by game for teams, as always. Miami Heat, Charlotte Hornets, 223 total. Miami is favored by 5. Tyler Hero out, Caleb Martin out. So pretty big injury news on the Heat side. As far as Charlotte, Terry Rozier is still out. Brandon Miller questionable. Gordon Hayward questionable. So pretty big news. Obviously, we'll get this before lock. What does Tyler Hero do for you? I think the Heat will be pretty low owned throughout. Not really a spot I want to get to. This isn't a game I really love. But what does the injury news on Charlotte Hayward do for you if they're out?
Yeah, I mean, if Gordon Hayward and Brandon Miller are out, you're going to have to see a ton of minutes from LaMelo Ball tonight. I mean, they're going to be so thin in the backcourt that we could see him get up to 40 minutes tonight. Matchup is pretty tough. We talked about it last week where the Heat were kind of struggling defensively to start the year, but they've really turned it around. And that's just historically they've been a really solid defensive team. So I would not look too into their defensive struggles at the beginning of the year. But yeah, I think it would be a little bit tough for me to get to LaMelo just for the matchup. I mean, the minutes are going to be there. Usage is going to all funnel through him. But I would probably have a little bit more interest in some of the value guys, maybe somebody like Bryce McGowan's or JT Thor's 4,200s. Don't really like him, but we might see a funky starting lineup. It could be Bryce McGowan's. It could be Leahy Black, the rookie, starting for them. Yeah, so
if it's McGowan's, that price, would that be interesting to you on this slate? I mean, how would he compare to like the Robert Covingtons of the world? Obviously, if Embiid's out, it wouldn't even be close, but that's the guy that's jumping out the page in that range. How do you think he'd compare if he is starting, if they are ruled out?
Yeah, I mean, if McGowan's is starting and Embiid is in, I would probably prefer McGowan's over Covington, but obviously, like we'll get the Embiid news. That would change a ton. They would be the top value, but yeah, I would not mind McGowan's. He would have to play a ton of minutes. Only 3,500 shooting guard eligible, which is nice. But yeah, just not a spot I really love wanting to attack against the Miami Heat. And on the Heat side, they get a really good matchup. I mean, the Hornets are dead last in defensive rating, top 4 in pace. So this game should hopefully that can kind of speed up the pace of play for the Heat and we can get some points scored. Bam Adebayo has been leading the team in usage on the year. He gets a really, really good matchup versus Charlotte, who's been historically pretty weak at defending the paint. So he's a pretty contrarian spend-up spot, I think, at 9K. I don't think a lot of people would want to go to him, with him only being center eligible. I'm seeing Jimmy Butler projecting decently well right now, but I don't think I really like that. He's just kind of – seems like early in the seasons he tries to take a little bit more of the back seat and then kind of picks it up towards the end of the year. And a matchup versus the Hornets, which they should win pretty easily, I don't think that he's gonna be like commanding a huge use rate or have a high minutes ceiling or anything like that. So it's really just Bam on the Heat side for me.
Yeah, and more I look into Bam, it definitely I have some interest there. 9K, ownership isn't as high as I'd expect. The dude's been chucking 20 plus in his last 4, double, almost his last 4 of his last 5 or 5 of his last 6. Man, solid matchup too in the front court. Bam is definitely my preferred option. Jimmy looks to be taking a back seat a bit to him. It does feel weird paying 400 more for Bam than Jimmy, but higher floor and higher ceiling right now too. If Hayward and Miller, even if just one of them are in, I don't think I can get to really anyone on Charlotte. And outside of Bam, I don't really like anyone in this game in general. So it's more of a fade. The Embiid news, people are already asking about that. That game's also at 7. So it's there's no reason to fade it if we don't get the Embiid news. But we're also waiting on some other news like LeBron. Again, that's way later, so I don't know how much you can wait for that. In general, though, if Hayward or Miller are in, especially if both, I'm not really getting to that side. Bam, a great play. And I guess a contrarian Jimmy spending the chalky lineup's fine, but I definitely prefer Bam. Let's keep it rolling. This is the big game. Embiid is questionable. We'll get this news again. But Pacers, Sixers, 240.5 total, monster total. Philly is favored by 5. No injury news on the Pacers side we're waiting on. On the Philly side, Oubre is out. Joel Embiid is questionable. If he is out, I do expect Paul Reed to start. Someone did bring that up as well. But Covington already getting ownership, even if Embiid's in. Covington, power forward, center eligible, 3.4K starting. Would it be, one of the highest owned plays we've seen in a long time on a 10-game slate. If Embiid's ruled out, still going to be very high owned anyways. If Embiid's in, I think it's a very interesting spot for him as well. 11-5 on a slate that I don't love outside of Jokic, too many spends. break down this one. What does Embiid news do for you if then scenarios?
Yeah, so if Embiid is in, I mean, the matchup it could not be better. Indiana's going to be a top 3 pace team, bottom 4 defensive rating. They're a huge rim funnel. They're doing a really good job at defending 3-pointers, but they're dead last at rim defense. I mean, Embiid would just have such a huge ceiling in this game going against Miles Turner, who's been a pretty weak defender this year. So I would definitely love him as a spend up if he's in. I don't know exactly how serious this injury is. I think it could just be kind of an excuse for him to take a night off because they are on a back-to-back. It would make a lot more sense for him to sit this one out going against the Pacers, whereas they play Boston tomorrow, so that game probably means a little bit more to them. So I would kind of lean on him sitting. Go ahead.
Unless they go the other way, where take your win and take the harder matchup, the L maybe tomorrow if they go that way. But it's interesting. You can make cases for both sides, but it does feel like he will sit one of these games.
Yeah, it definitely does feel like that. And if it's tonight, then yeah, I think Paul Reed would just be the lock of the century. I mean, he's such a good fantasy producer when he's given the minutes. He's done really good as a starter. Matchup is obviously really good. Only 3,500. Like that'd be really good chalk, I think. And then yeah, if Embiid is out, I mean, a ton of usage is going to funnel to a lot of the secondary guys. Tyrese Maxey is going to have a really high ceiling. Just saw these teams play a couple days ago, and he went for 75 DraftKings points, 50 real points, shot the ball 32 times. I mean, he's got the Nick Nurse treatment where they're just going to play him up to 40 minutes on a nightly basis. So his ceiling is super high if Embiid is out. I mean, even if he's in, I still like Maxey too. Don't have a ton of interest in Tobias Harris. He's been really solid this year, but 6,400, I just don't know how much of a ceiling he has at that price. I mean, guys like D'Anthony Melton is going to get a big boost if Embiid is out, but I think my interest would be just in Paul Reed, Robert Covington, and Maxey mostly on the Sixers side, and then on the Pacers side, yeah, I mean it's Tyrese Halliburton pretty much. That's the only one I have interest in. He's been a stud this year. Pretty sure he's averaging a double-double. He had a 60-point game in the same matchup with a huge 17 assists. Yeah, I mean his usage is really good, 25% of the year, a ton of touch time. He's assisting on almost half of the team's points scored on this year. So he's just like he's the offense for them. Everything runs through him. I would worry a little bit if Embiid is in. This game does have a chance to blow out, which would dock his ceiling quite a bit. But yeah, I don't really want to get too much into all these secondary guys. It would just be Halliburton on the Pacers for me.
Yeah, so the 7 p.m. games, what's going on, Ross? Still on the 7 p.m. games. Yep, second game, you didn't miss much. And the next game is very important with the Hawks. Not that we're really waiting on stuff, but they already have some of the best value on the slate without Trey there. That it's not like backloading and waiting for news isn't as important. We're going to get this Embiid news. So if Embiid's out, so many people are going to jam these 7 p.m. games, and a lot of roster spots will be done. What would you, without jumping ahead too much, if Embiid's out, would you prefer Sixers loading up on them, the Tobias, the Maxies, the Paul Reeds, the Covingtons, or would you prefer these Hawks? Obviously, some different prices. You can play them both, but a lot of similar prices between them. The Hunters, Bogdanoviches, DeJountes, Sadiq Beys of the world.
Yeah, I would lean the Sixers side. They're just going to be a lot more thin, especially in the front court with Kelly Oubre and Batum missing here, which is why Covington is projecting so well right now. He's going to see a good amount of minutes. But yeah, if Embiid is out, I mean, it's a lot different than having a guy like Trae Young out. I mean, Embiid he might be leading the league in usage rates this year. I think he's at like 37%. So there's just a ton of offense to go around with him not there.
Yeah, those two teams would by far be the chalkiest, and you could play. Tobias would be a phenomenal play. Of course, Paul Reed, assuming he is starting. Covington's already a great play. He'd be massive chalk. So the chalk would all be in that 7 p.m. game. People wouldn't run it back. I will say, Miles Turner, the Embiid news, we always talk about it for their own team, not as much on the other side. But if Embiid's out, I give a boost to Miles Turner. Paul Reed, much smaller. He's athletic, but way easier matchup for Turner than it is against Embiid. I still think Turner or Tyrese is an interesting run back, though. No one really going to the Pacers side. Miles Turner is still affordable price tag. Ownership will be a little lower at center, but yeah, I think Turner 6'9", Tyrese, definitely my two favorite plays there. The Meltons, Melton pretty much Embiid news. If he's out, I bump him and I play some. I don't really like him as much. If Embiid's in, I like Tobias. I like Maxey. Regardless, though, and Paul Reed, the biggest beneficiary there. So we'll keep it rolling, though. Next game, 10 to talk about, and this one big because if Embiid's in, I think the Hawks, probably the chalkiest team on the slate. Hawks Pistons, 225 total. Atlanta is favored by 4.5. Trae Young is out. That's all we're waiting on, or that's all the news on that side. As far as the Pistons, Duran's out, and Bojan Bogdanovic is out. I mentioned a lot of it, but with Trae out, Hunter, Bogdanovic, DeJounte at 8.3 is a very good price tag. Sadiq Bey, I think those are the main. Kongwu as well is going to get some ownership. Those 5 all going to get quality ownership, especially if Embiid is in and all these other injury tags are in. I'm talking too much. What are you doing with the Hawks? How many's too many? And anything on the Pistons side?
Yeah, I could see myself getting to 3 Hawks if Embiid is in. I think you'd want to be kind of conscious on how you're grouping things out because I don't think you would want 3. You probably want no more than 2 of the Jalen Johnson, Hunter, and Sadiq Bey grouping. I think they all kind of eat into each other a little bit. Maybe Bogdan and Sadiq Bey also, they kind of overlap a little bit in terms of usage and upside. And then obviously Max 1, Okongwu, and Capella. Yeah, I mean, I have a ton of interest in DeJounte Murray here. He's one of my favorite players. He's an absolute stud. He was, second behind Trae in all the meaningful ball handler role stats, drive time, touch time, usage rates, all that. So he's going to see a really big boost with Trae Young out. I think his usage rate bumped up to like 30% with Trae out. And the matchup is really good for guards, especially with Jalen Duren missing. The Pistons defense, interior defense, was really solid with him there, but they really struggle with him missing games, having to start guys like Marvin Bagley and play James Wiseman, and has not really worked out for them. DeJounte is averaging almost 13 drives a game, and he's been really efficient with those drives, 55% field goal rate on drives. So yeah, I like him a lot. I think the price tag is really solid. He's got some upside there, so I definitely prefer DeJounte. And Bogdan is probably going to slide into the starting lineup. He's going to be extremely chalky. I'm a little cautious about that chalk just because he's really scoring dependent, and I just don't know if like upper 20s is going to be enough to pay off his price tag at almost 5K. If you can just try to find cheaper values and spend up elsewhere, that might be the move, but. Yeah, I think he's probably just okay chalk right now at 4,900. Hopefully, the Embiid news kind of comes and we could jam in some Sixers. I don't know if I love the Bogdan chalk right now. And then, yeah, Pistons side, I have some interest in Cade Cunningham. That shouldn't be news to anybody. I'm a big Cade fan. He's had a really, really strong role this year. 30% usage rate, 30% assist rate, 7 minutes touch time, 18 drives a game. He's paid off this price tag a few times. I think not having Trae Young there, maybe keeps this game a little bit more competitive. And we could just see one of those back and forth affairs with Cade and DeJounte Murray just going back and forth all night. It's worth noting that the Hawks are playing really fast and pace right now. They're top 2 in the league. And yeah, having DeJounte run the point, I think just will speed it up a little bit more. I think we can see Trae Young he likes to get set up in the half court a little bit more than DeJounte. So this game could produce a ton of points, a ton of fantasy points. I definitely have some interest in Cade, and yeah, no interest in Bagley. Asar is getting a little bit too expensive at 7-1. Alec Burks, maybe he could act as a pivot off of Bogdan at 4,600. He's got the same shooting guard, small forward eligibility. He's been one of their better just overall scorers. He's really relied on as a 6-man bench scorer for this team. So I would not mind him as a sneaky pivot off of Bogdan. I have a little bit of interest in Isaiah Stewart too at 5,700. He sees a really big boost without Duren. I think that it's possible maybe they just start him at center instead of going to Bagley. Bagley minutes have been really bad, but either way, Isaiah Stewart's minutes are pretty solid, and we've seen him have a couple of really good games, notching some double doubles. Went for 40 a few games ago, 35 last game. So I think that my interest on the Pistons would just be Cade, Stewart, and then a little bit of Alec Burks.
Yeah, no Killian. You didn't mention him. I don't like Killian either. I don't really like anyone on this Detroit side, to be honest. Like, you can always play Cade. I think Stewart's fine. It's just a 10-game slate. I try and cross off some teams, and like Sixers I like. It can only get better. I like the Hawks. So that side would be a cross off probably for me. The Hawks side is interesting. So assuming Embiid's in, Covington chalk, Bogdanovich chalk, if you had to pick one.
Probably Covington just for the savings. It's going to be, you're saving $1,500. So I would probably just want to go down if I'm choosing between those two guys and then maybe spend up elsewhere. Maybe that gets you to Jokic or Luka or something like that.
Yeah, no, I get it. I'm leaning Bogdanovich. He's a way better player. I know he will chalk. He has a little scoring dependence, so you can poke holes in both of these guys. Covington, if Embiid's in, like, he can make shots. He needs to make threes too. He can grab some boards, but Embiid, Tobias, Tyrese can hog all of it. And the shooting guard and forward eligibility is nice on Bogdanovich. But right now, as it all stands, if everyone's ruled in that's questionable, and this is a slate, I think both are solid chalk, and you can get different in other spots. Saddiq Bey revenge, people are talking about. Yeah, Saddiq Bey's definitely in play. DeAndre Hunter is a good play. Johnson, all of these guys. The really only hot take I have on the Hawk side is I prefer Capella over Kongwu, and that's just the ownership. I think, yeah, I get it, the price tag, the 1,100. Why not side with the Kongwu? But if the ownership's 3-4 times difference, Capella's still playing a couple extra minutes, pretty much splitting 48 at the center, though. I'll just take the ownership discount and get different there. And everyone else is playing all these other Hawks. He'll be a very low-owned Hawk, so maybe you can play 2 of them instead of 4 or something like that. But yeah, no Detroit side for me. No hot takes on the Hawks. I think all of DeJounte's a great spend up. I'm good. I think that's solid chalk too. Hunter, Johnson, Bogdanovich. How many's too many? I think you can play 4 if Embiid and all these other people are in as well. It is one of the best spots of the night. So we'll keep it rolling though. Again, everyone out there, appreciate you hanging out. Appreciate that like button. If you haven't hit that subscribe button, I don't know what you're doing. We appreciate that as well. Next game on the slate, 7:30 p.m. Eastern, San Antonio Spurs, OKC Thunder. Another big total, 238.5. OKC favored by 10.5. Keldon Johnson and Trey Jones out for the Spurs side. As far as OKC, they are healthy. Yeah, I'll just throw it right to you. I've been talking too much in the beginning of these games. You can start some of these games off. What does this Spurs news do for you? Do you think any ownership's really in this one? Any interest on the other side with OKC?
Yeah, I mean, this is pretty interesting because the Spurs could be really shorthanded tonight if Sohan misses too. He's questionable. It's likely they'll probably bring up some G League guys because they're in Oklahoma City. It's not too far. Should be able to get them over there. But yeah, I mean, like Devin Vassell's got to see a pretty big boost. I think if Sohan misses, they pretty much will be without a point guard unless they. Maybe they put Devontae Graham in the starting lineup. We haven't really seen a lot of him this year, but last year he was very viable as a fantasy asset for us. So maybe he starts. I think that starting lineups are going to really dictate my interest in this game because we're seeing some pretty decent projections on guys like Cedi Osman. So I don't know what exactly his role is going to be. I couldn't imagine he's going to just randomly start seeing 30 minutes a night. Hasn't really gone up over 20 much this year, so I don't really know like what the basically a long way of saying I don't know what the rotation is going to be because they have a pretty decent group of guys to fill in with Branham, Graham, McDermott, Champagny, Bassey's going to play too. So it really just depends on the starting lineup. I would assume it's probably Malachi Branham starting if Sohan misses. But yeah, we'll have to see. I mean, Wembanyama is going to have a huge role in this one if he can get the minutes. I mean, last 2 games he's gotten up over 34, 35 minutes and seen his usage spike in those games, got up to 33% in both of those games. So I wouldn't mind him. I mean, he'll probably be pretty low owned at 8,600. And yeah, he's got a really big ceiling in this one. So I think he's probably my favorite Spur. And then OKC is pretty easy to break down. It's just SGA. But even him, I don't really love just with the blowout concerns. And he's just extremely scoring dependent. I mean, he really needs 40 real points to kind of hurt you, which he's definitely capable of doing. I mean, he's done it already once this year. But I mean, if he gets into the 30s of like real point scoring, he has a tough time breaking 60 at that price tag, which I kind of want if I'm paying above 10K for somebody. So I don't have a ton of interest in here. I think maybe if you wanted to group together Wemby and SGA would probably be a way to play it, just because if they're both hitting their ceilings, or if one guy's hitting their ceiling, there's probably a decent chance somebody on the other side is too. So I wouldn't mind that pairing. It'll probably be super low owned to no ownership at all. So yeah, I don't really have a ton of interest in this game, basically.
Yeah, mine are just really the studs. SGA on the OKC side, no one else. They're too healthy. It's still SGA's team. And then Victor on the other side. And if Sochan's out, I mean, I'd have to have interest in the Branhams, the Devontae Grahams of the world. Again, it's tough to click Devontae Graham's name, but you look at their squad, like they don't have anyone that can play point. If Sochan's out, Vassell can handle the ball in Branham, so those two, but they're both starting. No one on the bet, like Chetty's not going to run point. Doug can't drip. Like it has to be Devontae Graham there. So I guess they'd have 3 point guards if they're using Vassell as well. If Sochan's out, if he's in, they just still have enough guys. Doug rotating in, Chetty Osman, Grant. Like it's pop too at the end of the day. Do I want on a 10-game slate? We just talked about Covington, Chalk, Bogdanovich, or these Bays, these Hunters. I feel so much better with these Hawks guys than I do these secondary Spurs guys right now. So yeah, assuming Sochan's in, I think just give me Wemby, give me Victor, give me SGA, and don't have to guess with all these secondary pieces. Is how I'm doing it. But if he's out, Branham, whoever gets really the start at points, I guess Vassell would get a boost that way. But man, these Spurs always tilt me. Let's keep it rolling. Go ahead.
I just want to touch on Evan's point right here. He said Blake Wesley. I think he's in the G League right now, so there's a chance he gets brought up. Definitely would need to monitor that. If he doesn't, then yeah, obviously he's not in play, but it would probably boost up a guy like Devontae Graham, which feels gross, but he's min price. So
yeah, there's not many players down there, all the way down there by Devontae Graham. That's why we're talking about it still. If you wanted to go a Jokic build, a Victor, SGA, Devontae Graham, something like that. Hopefully Sochan's in though. And again, if Sochan's in, I don't think Sochan's a bad play. Like Chetty is popping. Chetty is getting ownership. Like give me Atlanta chalkier pieces. Give me Covington, even if Embiid's in. This is chalk. I'd rather fade. So the Spurs have too many nightmares with the Spurs with pop in there. So keep it rolling. Second of two 7:30 p.m. Eastern games. Orlando Magic, Brooklyn Nets. Brooklyn is favored by 3, 218.5 total. On the Brooklyn side, Ben Simmons is out. Cam Thomas is out, so missing 2 of their key guys. On the Magic side, what do we got here?
I think it's just Fultz.
Yeah, Wendell Carter out. Oh, Wendell Carter, he's been. Fultz, Gary Harris, that doesn't mean much. So Tyreek Black at the end of the what are your thoughts on Black here in this, or Anthony Black, not Tyreek Black. Anthony Black, Suggs. I think they're fine. At the end of the day, though, this Magic team, Goga is always interesting. At 5K, he's performed pretty well when when he's got the minutes. Center's a loaded position, so I don't think ownership's really going to go there. Can I talk you in a little Eddie Goga and then talk about Simmons news, Cam Thomas being out? Does that do anything for you on that side?
No, so I'll start with the big men. Goga's been starting, but his minutes have really come down. It seems like they're trying to get Jonathan Isaac a lot more minutes now and kind of playing him at the center spot. So it kind of takes all 3 of the big men out in Wagner, Goga, and Jonathan Isaac. Just that none of them are seeing enough minutes to be in play for me right now. I do have some interest in Paulo, though. I mean, he's had some really, really good games. His best games in the year have came with Markelle Fultz missing. He went for 56, 53, 34, but that game he had some foul trouble, and then 51. So, yeah, I mean, he's definitely much more in play when Markelle Fultz misses. He's really the only person I have interest in on the Magic side. Just Franz is a little bit too expensive for his role. Anthony Black, same thing. He's not like a big usage guy. He's just going to kind of be out there for defense and running the point a little bit. I don't see a ton of upside for him. So yeah, it's basically just Paulo. And then on the net side, they got
Suggs?
back.
Any thoughts on Suggs? He was my favorite. More I looked at it was really just Suggs or bust. It was Paulo for you. Any thoughts on Suggs quick?
Yeah, not really a ton of interest at 5,900. I don't know if he has a ton of upside. He's only gone over 30 like twice this year, 2 or 3 times this year. So I don't 5,900. I think I could spend my money elsewhere instead of going to Suggs. Just the game environment itself is not that great. Magic are pretty solid defensively, and both these teams play kind of slow. So I don't really have a ton of interest in Suggs. Mainly just Paulo. And then on the net side, they got Claxton and Cam Johnson back a couple of games ago. I think was it Claxton's last game? Yeah, it was his first game back after missing a couple of weeks, and yeah, he got 28 minutes right off the bat. Had a double-double. So yeah, he's projected pretty well for us. It's only 6,200, so I would not mind him. Cam Johnson, his offense is definitely going to be needed with them losing Cam Thomas, and then Ben Simmons is not really an offensive weapon, but he definitely commands some usage and runs the point a little bit. So I think that Cam Johnson got up 13 and 16 shots in the 2 games coming back, and he got up to 35 minutes last game. So I think he's definitely an option at 5,400. And then Bridges. He's the main offensive weapon right now. So 29 shots last game, definitely showed some upside, but I think most nights he's going to be in the upper 30s maybe. So I don't really like him at 8,100. Yeah, I don't really have a ton of interest in this game. It's just Paulo and then Claxton and Cam Johnson for me.
Yeah, so it sucks. We're differ a little bit, but we're the same. We don't really like this. I don't like this game much either. If I had no pieces in it, I'd be totally fine. I prefer Suggs to Paulo. Suggs is my favorite on the Magic. The price, it's fine. It's just the whole thing. But I do like Cam Johnson. 35 minutes last game, his second game back. You mentioned Claxton as well. Need his size a little bit. Solid price tag. I think both are going to get some ownership. Again, this game outside of that, like Bridges, I don't really want that price tag. Really, Cam, he's my favorite in this game. Probably Claxton 2, Suggs 3, but it's definitely a game you can get away from. I like the Hawks side way more. I like the Sixers more. I guess Pacers and Nets are pretty equivalent. I like 2 guys on both sides, and we don't really like the first game. You kind of see it the same way with this game. Yeah, I like it more than the Spurs OKC too.
Yeah, I think so too. There's just better spots on a 10-game slate. It'd be different if this was a 4 or 5-game slate, but on 10 games, I don't think you really need to attack this one.
Yeah, a lot of big totals mixed in. This is another one right here, almost 240. Dallas Mavericks, New Orleans Pelicans, 239.5 total. Dallas is favored by 3.5, and we do still have a beat-up Pelicans team. CJ's out. Herb Jones is questionable again. Dyson Daniels will start for him. If he is out, I assume. Larry Nance out. Trey Murphy out. On the Dallas side, Maxi Kleber is out. Again, I don't think it's a game that's really going to get much ownership. If people spend up, I think it's going to be Embiid or Jokic, which always makes Luka interesting. Is that something you'll be looking to make a pivot up top like that? With CJ out, there's still Ingram, stuff like Zion, but they're all priced like it's as well. So Herb Jones news, does that do anything for you as well, like a Dyson Daniels in play today?
He would be in play for sure. 5,300 is kind of priced up, but he was pretty solid last game out. I don't think he's a ton of upside, but he's definitely going to be starting and seeing a lot of minutes. So he's a play, but he's not my favorite play by any means. Pelicans have really been struggling this year, though, offensively and defensively. They're bottom 3 in the league in offense right now. And on the other side, Mavericks are top 2. So this is, if the game could stay close, Mavericks are bottom 7 defense right now too. So if the game could stay close, we could see some pretty big games from both sides. We saw these teams just play 2 nights ago, and it was a big blowout. Luka and Kyrie both got up to 50 DraftKings points and only played 28 minutes. If the Pelicans are able to turn it around and keep this game close, I definitely have some interest in both Luka and Kyrie. They're really the only guys I think you can play right now on the Mavericks. Derek Jones Jr. was a lot more enticing when he was in the 3Ks, but at 4,500, his range of outcomes is really wide. I don't really want to take the shot on him when there's better value. But yeah, the Pelican side is kind of interesting because I don't know if you saw the press conference with Zion a couple of days ago where he was just saying that he's pretty frustrated with his role right now. He's trying to buy into the offense. You can see it. He's just been super inefficient this year. It just seems like he's not clicking with the offense right now. So I'm not sure if there's any sort of like squeaky wheel narrative there, if he's going to suddenly become the focal point. Matchup should be pretty good for him with the Mavericks kind of struggling to defend the rim. So, I mean, he definitely has some upside, but seeing a decent bit of ownership on him, well, just above 10%. I much prefer Brandon Ingram for 100 less, much better role. He's kind of been the de facto point guard since CJ's gone down. He's pretty much leading the team in usage and all the ball handling metrics that you can bring up. So he would definitely be my preferred Pelican. And I mean, Jonas Valanciunas definitely has some upside at 6,300 in this matchup, but I could see him kind of getting played off of the floor in this one with Luka and Kyrie just playing a very switch-heavy offense and just kind of isolating Joe Val, putting him on an island and then just going to work. So I think he could get played off pretty quickly. They've been giving Jeremiah Robinson Earl a lot more minutes. So it's not the craziest play at 3,900. I don't think there's really like a ton there, but I mean, it's just kind of noteworthy. He's been seeing more minutes lately with them playing more small ball, and they'll be without Larry Nance for a couple of weeks. So it's got to open up minutes somewhere. I'm not sure if it's him or not, but he's an option. But yeah, basically I'm pretty in on Luka and Kyrie, and then I like Ingram the most on the Pelican side.
Yeah, it would really just be the studs, Luka, Kyrie, Ingram, Zion. I probably would max one on both sides, and I don't even like if I had one on each side. I guess if you're hoping for OT or you get an Ingram, Luka back and forth, but I prefer others in all their price ranges a lot more. So not a game I like really much at all. I do hope Herb Jones is playing as well. This next game, though, that we'll talk about, I have a lot of interest in, which is why we talked about it. Some games we've had a lot of interest, or at least one team, the Sixers, the Hawks. A lot of games we've had fades, but 10-game slate, it's a big one. And this one I'll have a lot of interest in. Portland Trailblazers, Utah Jazz, 231.5 total. Your Utah Jazz favored by 6.5. We do have injury news in this one. Walker Kessler is still out. The first game he was out was last week when we were on the show. We expected Kelly O to start. He did not start that game, so it threw a little wrench into things. On the Portland side, they're still without Brogdon, Scoot, Anthony Simons, and then Robert Williams, of course, as well. So still a lot of injury news on the Portland side. That is where I do have more interest. Skylar Mays, he's by far my favorite one. Jeremy Grant as well. I don't know. Maybe more I talk about it, I think Utah might have more players I'm interested in, but I love Skylar Mays. I love Jeremy Grant getting all the minutes in the world, and I really like Ayton as well. Big boost without Walker Kessler. On the other side, Clarkson, John Collins, Markkanen, I think is fine. Keontae George would be my favorite. And what are your thoughts on Agbaji? This is your Utah team. But what are your thoughts on Agbaji at that 3.9 price tag right there with Covington?
Yeah, I definitely have some interest in him. I mean, he was the rookie last year. They got in the first round, and they've been kind of trying to make this Agbaji thing happen for a while now. He's just had kind of a rough start to his career, but it was pretty encouraging seeing him last game. He had somewhat of a breakout game, got 15 points, 6 rebounds, saw 30 minutes. If he's seeing 30 minutes on a nightly basis, I think he has to be in contention at 3,900. There's a little bit of an issue just with the guards, or the Jazz are very heavy in the guard department. I mean, they're mixing guys like Colin Sexton, THT, Chris Dunn, even. So like they're pretty deep, and you're not really seeing a ton of minutes from anybody outside of Jordan Clarkson. So I think there is a little bit of downside to him. If things don't go well, they could pull the plug on him. I mean, you saw first game he started was against Indiana, only saw 26 minutes and only put up 10 and a half DraftKings points. So that's how bad it can be. But yeah, I mean, I think you have to have some interest in a guy at 3,900 in a good game environment versus a bad defense that has the upside of 30. So I have some interest in Agbaji. For the Jazz, mostly though, it's going to be Clarkson and Keontae George for me. I mentioned last week in our slate plan that Jordan Clarkson's done a really good job of pinpointing a matchup where he can kind of find their weakness and kind of exploit it a little bit. We saw in the Memphis game, he was just launching threes, where Memphis is one of the worst 3-point defending teams in the league. And then the next game against Indiana, he was super drive heavy, where they can't defend the rim at all. He was getting to the line a bunch. So this is a matchup where he should be able to get to the rim. He's been leading the team in drives. Where's his number? I forget the number, but he's been driving it a bunch pretty much. And DeAndre Ayton has been really bad defensively down low. So I think Clarkson has the most upside for his price point on the Jazz. I'm not super interested in Lauri Markkanen at 8,700. He's going to be mainly just sitting out there launching threes, has double-double upside. Minutes should be really strong for him. So if you wanted to spend up for him, I would not mind that.
Zion, Ingram, rank those quick.
Probably Ingram, Lauri, then Zion for me.
It would be Lauri, Ingram, Zion for me, but it's pretty close. Keep going.
Okay. And then John Collins. I mean, the matchup's really good for him, but 6,400. I don't know how much upside he could really have to pay off that tag. If he's out, I mean, I think he's questionable right now. So if he's out, then Kelly Olynyk probably starts, and 5,100, pretty good price tag for him. So I would have some interest in him. But on the Jazz side, my favorites would be Clarkson, Keontae George, probably Agbaji, and then Lauri. But that could change as we get more news. And then on the Portland side, we're going to see some heavy minutes from the starters. Skylar Mays was low 5Ks last week, and now he's almost at 7K, which is pretty crazy. Seen some ownership on him at 6,700. I mean, he's projecting really well. I feel like there is some downside risk to him. I mean, the minutes are going to be really solid, but 6,700, we've seen him run super hot with assists. He's got double-double in both games. I mean, I don't really know much about the kid. He could be a pretty solid basketball player, but I feel like I might want to just spend elsewhere, maybe find the 300 to get to DeAndre Ayton, who I think has a much better matchup down low versus the Jazz, who have been terrible defending the rim, especially since Walker Kessler has missed. His minutes have been really solid. I think he was probably my preferred option on the Blazers. And then, Jimmy Grant, he's going to see all the minutes in the world also, but 7,500, I think he needs a really big scoring output in order to pay that off too, which could definitely happen to me. The Jazz are one of the worst defenses in the league. So I wouldn't mind him. Shaedon Sharpe also going to see a ton of minutes, had a couple down games, but he's just kind of a contrarian spend up for me. And then, I don't really know. I mean, they're bringing in a bunch of creative players now to their roster with Duop Reith and Jamari Booyah. So these guys don't even sound real. I don't really know what to do with those guys. So it's mainly just DeAndre Ayton for me on the Blazers.
Yeah, I like Skylar Mays more than you do. I make sure I'm not on mute. So I'm trying to show right now. This is at SHIPITNation.com. You get a bunch of content. I'll show some off in a bit, but you do get, if you want to search projections, ownership, you want to search certain teams, there you go. Salary projection. You can sort it by point per dollar. Keontae George, Skylar Mays. You can tell this game is projecting pretty well. How I rank them is give me the minutes. Skylar Mays, Jeremy Grant, Ayton. Those are my three Portland guys like I talked about. You mentioned Clarkson, though. Looking at him, going to get some ownership. This game will get some in general, but on a 10-game slate, it is more spread out. This is part of our premium content, though. Projections, DraftKings, FanDuel, ownership, GPP core report from Hebrew, our man Rio, Tambo, Hamwich, Hoops on it as well right now in place of Tambo. We got FanDuel as well. Cash report, 4 core plays on both sites. Slate plan, this is what Rio was talking about a little bit, is right up at Clarkson. You see some yellow, Bogdanovich. People highlighted that he has made updates to. He puts a lot of time into that, so can't give away all that content. These two tools will be coming live shortly, end of the month and beginning of next month. We need some more data this year. Then Showdown. Not many people do this. Still monster prize pools for Showdown, projections, and a core report. You get favorites, captains, flex plays, his exposure, and then a slate overview on how you attack Showdown, and see a lot of success in the Showdown streets for members as well. So that's just NBA. You can see MMA, PGA, NHL, all one low price, $69 a month, $59 a month for our 6-month package, and then $49 a month for our annual package. Check it out if you want to. If you do, get in the Discord as well. If you just like tuning into these free shows, hey, we appreciate you guys there as well. Like button goes a long way. 3 games left, Rio. Next game on the slate, Los Angeles Clippers, Denver Nuggets, 225 total. Nuggets are favored by 4.5. Nothing on the Clipper side we're waiting on. As far as Denver, Jamal's still out. Nothing has changed over there. Jokic, if people do spend up, especially if Embiid's out, Jokic's ownership will go way up. He'll be the only spend, really. Luka will be higher owned as well, but still a distant second, I think. So if Embiid's in, I think they eat into each other a little bit. MPJ, a solid price tag. Outside of those two, though, I really don't think this game gets much ownership at all.
And in his career before that, he was just around 6. So that's 2 points is a pretty big jump in one season. So he's definitely got the ability to get hot from 3 and put up a double-double pretty quickly. So I think my interest in this game is basically just Jokic and MPJ. And then Aaron Gordon, same thing too. I mean,
we're froze.
Oh,
we're froze, it sounds like. Live stream is glitching.
Oh, no.
Oh, gosh. I'm not a producer either. I'll give it a sec. Do you guys got us? Man, I thought it was just me. Everyone's saying it's glitching. Let me refresh. We're definitely still live. We can go. We're good now. People are saying, are we good now? People let us know we're back. It's working now. Okay. We're back. Sorry. No clue what that is. They got us. All right. I had to kill YouTube. We're good now. Sorry about that, folks. We have no clue what's going on. Glad we're back now. Let's just break down back to this game. These last 3 games, I will say, a lot of the ownership is in these early games, especially if Embiid news works out, if he's out. Even with though, the Hawks, these last 3 games, not much ownership, really just Jokic and Michael Porter is my interest. You were going in talking about Jokic a little more, so touch on that. Sorry about that again, folks.
Yeah, I'll keep it short. I don't know how long I was talking for, but
I don't know when we cut out either.
They said right before this game started, so I'll just say no interest in the Clippers except for no interest in the Clippers except for Kawhi Leonard, but very small interest. And then the Nuggets, Jokic top spend on the slate, 35 plus real points in his last 3 games, 2 double-doubles in those games. So his ceiling is huge on every night. And there should be enough value to get to him, and if you can, you probably should. MPJ done a really good job at being more aggressive on the rebounding side of things, so I think he's got some double-double upside, and if he can get hot from 3, could pay off this price tag. But yeah,
we're still live, so it's not connecting. Should we try and end it and go back on? Let's do it.